tell me, you know what? You can do this. Let's do this. Because it's not easy doing all this work. My pink today, again, is my one and only daughter who's finished campus. I'm so proud of her. You know, she's called Liz Marie Kerubos. And interestingly, she's one of those ladies who would always cheer me on and encourage me and be there when I'm low also.
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
How beautiful.
That is Thank you.
A very good description of the pink.
I know. Like you got it just spot on.
Okay, thank you.
And you're dressed in pink.
Yes, and I'm dressed in pink.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
This week, GBRC was trending. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Do you want to touch on that case a bit?
Which one?
Oh,
of course, I'm pretending.
Because the former governor.
Okay.
The former governor, he mentioned GVRC in such a, like he really lauded it and said, this is a center. Women are treated so well here.
It's a safe space.
It's a safe space. He lauded it.
Yes. So touching on that case, and interestingly, we woke up to the video the next day. So we didn't even know he was coming. We didn't even know he was there, except my colleagues who work at the hospital. So I'll start by, for him to be able to say that, I would like to, and maybe that's another pink, is to appreciate the Gender Violence Coverage Center staff, right from the trustees to provide that direction, to the staff who are always committed. It's a 24/7 job. And being an integrated model also in a charitable trust of Nairobi Women's Hospital, because then those are the clinicians the former governor met at the hospital.
Yeah.
So that's one of the appreciation I want to give. And then maybe use that opportunity to also emphasize on what he said, which was one, that when survivors are violated, and it can happen to anyone, gender-based violence can happen to anyone, you can at any time go to any of the 8 gender violence coverage centers that are set up in 5 counties. And if you cannot reach there, you can reach us through the toll-free number, which is 0800 720 565. 720 565. Or you can call, and if you cannot come, we can send an ambulance over to you. We do rescues. In any of those hospitals, when you come, or to any of those GVRC centers, when you come, you're able to get free medical treatment and psychosocial support. So it's free to you as a survivor, but it's a cost to GVRC, because then we continuously have to raise resources to be able to provide that excellent treatment, to be able to bring back normalcy, yes, to the survivors' lives.
That is so beautiful.
Yeah.
Maybe we should start it from there. When let's talk about GVRC first.
Yes, please.
When was this center opened? How many women have you attended to so far? Then we'll get now to the nitty-gritties.
Okay. So the Gender Violence Coverage Center started in 2001. So the hospital, the Nairobi Women's Hospital, started. And they intended to provide women's health care. But in the course of that, they realized then the most common form of violence recognized at that time was rape cases.
Okay.
So they thought, you know what, we just want 2 cases of rape survivors who'd come get medical treatment, and that's it. But the numbers grew, and that's how then GVRC became an independent organization, for non-for-profit, and started providing that medical treatment. The first few years, it was mainly response, medical treatment, psychosocial support. But with time, then we also incorporated what we call primary prevention, meaning then we don't have to sit and just wait for survivors. How else can we prevent gender-based violence? So started having community programs, school programs, enhancing capacities of service providers, and also influencing laws and policies and practices at a national level. So how many have we supported? We're turning 25 in March next year.
Wow.
And I think the theme is just pink, so that would be another pink.
Got a milestone,
Yes, and in those years, so far, we've supported over 65,000 survivors of gender-based violence.
Wonderful.
Thank you. And when we say 65,000 survivors, it means more, because the program is designed in such a way that it supports you and your family and your significant, to be able to provide that support system.
Yes.
That's through the centers.
Yeah.
But through emergency response program. That means then if there's a crisis like the 2007, there's COVID-19, the Mount Elgon crisis, the Tana Delta crisis, then we'll go to where the crisis is and provide that GBV support. And that for that program, we've supported over 180,000 survivors of gender-based violence.
Okay.
When you go to those statistics again, in the year our year runs from April to March. From April 2024 to March 2025, the GVRC provided medical treatment and psychosocial support to 3,455. Now, to give you the segregation of data, also to mention that one life is 100% to them, so it's not just numbers.
Yes.
And that's a point where we say there's stability, there's calmness. 90% of those cases are women and girls. 10% are female. Out of that number, 113 were teenage pregnancies. 45 were persons living with disabilities. Something else to mention then, from April this year to about October this year, we supported 1,687 cases.
April to October.
Again, females were 90%. Teenage pregnancies from the cases were 52 in number, and then the pregnant adults were 23, persons with disability 21. So and also to mention that as much as the centers are 8, we'll also get referrals from the county referral hospitals.
Okay.
Yeah, so they'd also come for specialized care. Even though GVRC has set up other 14 centers in the county referral hospitals. Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's start this conversation. What is gender-based violence?
So gender-based violence is when violence, okay, I'm using the same words. Gender-based violence is when you are violated based on your gender. And it has relation to power, the power relations. You know, someone has power over you. And gender is not an issue, but it's an issue when then there's that power, power over. And the different forms of gender-based violence, maybe when I explain that, then we'll be able to understand better. So, for example, the sexual violence. So sexual violence, it's the highest form of, in Kenya and in our context, it's the one that we report more. Yeah?
Sexual violence.
Sexual violence at 76%. And sexual violence and gender-based violence can happen to either gender. It's also important to say that, yeah? And all forms of violence. So we also have men who've been sexually violated.
Correct.
And especially around November, we noticed in one of our centers, the Hurlingham unit, there are a lot of rape cases. Yeah, boys. We commonly know it as sodomy cases. So we also have physical violence. So you're beaten, you're slapped, you're kicked, you're all that. So we also have domestic violence. We have also economic violence. So you're financial, I denied, you come to work, yes, but you're told, your money is my money. I'm the one who decides what happens, or you're denied to go to work, or you're denied, what is it called? Let's say money to be able to buy the things in the house and things like that by your partner, or you're denied those opportunities. So, for example, you come to work, you have a male counterpart, but they're paid more for equal work that you do.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a form of violence?
Yes, it is.
Economic violence.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Okay.
Or you're even denied the opportunities, simply because you're a woman or man.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's also the emotional violence or psychological violence that we always ignore, and we also take it very lightly, but it's very heavy. They're all heavy, of course. So, like insults, like someone denies to talk to you, nail by mouth, it's a form of violence. And then we also have harmful practices. So, for example, female genital mutilation, forced male circumcision, child marriages,
Yes.
wife inheritance. So those are some of them. I think I've mentioned the broad ones. So those are the forms of gender-based violence.
Wow.
It's important also to say that sometimes you get both. So, for example, if you're sexually violated, it will psychologically affect you. It's also important to mention that for gender-based violence, sometimes we don't even realize we're being violated or we're violating. You see, like you're saying, okay, economic violence is a form of violence. So sometimes that's also happens because some of them are culturally entrenched or they're normalized. They become like, that's our social norm. That's how things are. So you don't even realize then that it's a form of violence.
I don't know. The introduction. What? It's very heavy.
To hear the numbers.
Alberta, I'm very curious.
Yes,
I want us
please.
to talk about, have you, we are approaching the 16 days of
Yes,
activism, yeah?
yes.
So have you observed any changes in the numbers or the nature of the GBV cases reported during or after the GBV, the 16 days of activism? Is there a difference?
Yes. So yes, we are about to start the campaign, the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. That starts on 25th of November
Yes.
and ends on 10th of December.
Yes.
Allow me to talk about it a bit now that you ask, and also then talk about the emerging trend. It's going to be launched at Suswa in Narok. The CS Cheptumo is very keen to see Twende Mashinani and create this awareness and response in Mashinani. So it's going to happen at Suswa, and the guest of honor will be the First Lady, Madam Rachel Ruto, Rachel Ruto. What this year's theme is, and then that ties up with what you're asking about emerging trends. This year's theme talks about unite to end digital violence against all women and girls in Kenya. That already tells you, so there's a task force. There's an anti-gender-based violence task force for state and non-state actors under State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action that GVRC co-chairs. So because we saw at the beginning of the year a rise in what we call technologically facilitated gender-based violence and gender-based violence and femicide cases. So because of that, then that's the theme this year, and it has different objectives, and some of the objectives are creating awareness, calling developers and the tech companies of for example, to have safety measures around that the technology space. It also talks about holding perpetrators accountable because it's not been given that much attention. So that's the reason. What I like to mention also around this period, because of using tech can also be used at the good side of it, you know, creating prevention, also creating access to services for gender-based violence survivors. So GVRC also around this period is going to launch an app called the Hodi app. It's a digital referral app where you're able to log in, get prevention bit of it, get some tips if violence happens to you, how can you prevent violence. But even that, most of us are able to access the phones, or someone close to us is able to access a smartphone. Is to be able to know if it happens to me, let's say in Narok, where can I easily get access to services? Where can I easily be rescued? So this has been with support from the Embassy of Denmark in Kenya, but that's just one example of the things that are happening. So when you talk about has there been changes? Yes, there's been changes. There's been emerging trends. We've had femicide cases that are really underreported. Just the first 3 months of this year, we had about 129 cases. Last year and about 4 years back, African Census talked about 526 cases of femicide cases. And also talking about these femicide cases, a lot of times it's not reported. A lot of times we cover it up as a family, so we never get to know the truth around it. I would case in point talk about a lady who was 52 years old who was plucking coffee late last year. That's around December last year, 2024. This lady was plucking coffee at a tea farm in Kiambu. She got raped. She was taken to Kiambu Hospital when she was found. They stabilized her, they referred her to GVRC, she got surgery, but we lost her. That's also a femicide case. You get, so when you have gender-based violence and then you have death out of it, it's a woman, it's a girl, and every other day, again, on the media, you're also able to, you also see a femicide case, you know, and things like that, So for that also, GVRC, through the founder, is a vice chair of the technical working group that was appointed by the president. They did their public participation across the country. They've come up with recommendations, and anytime they should be able to present that to the president. And we are hopeful then that the recommendations will be implemented, so that then we can also stop gender-based violence.
Exactly. And talking of the trends, when you talk about digital violence.
Yes.
What does digital violence entail?
Uh-huh.
How would you know that you're being violated
Digitally,
in the
yes.
digital
In
space?
the digital space.
Yeah.
Okay. So digital violence. Just give me a second.
Because most of the times we always assume is, when someone, body shames you online, or
When they do what?
body shames, or
Uh-huh.
I'm also curious if I had shared an intimate picture with my then boyfriend or lover, and then we've broken up, and now it's trending somewhere. Is that a form of
A form of gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence.
Okay. So yes. So digital violence is we call it commonly within the GBV space, we call it the technologically facilitated gender-based violence. So it's a gender-based violence, but now with use of technology.
Okay.
And again, it's also known as the digital violence. So it includes violence, it includes harassment, intimidation, exploitation. And I'd like to talk about then what you're asking, then the how of it.
Yeah.
So online harassment and cyberbullying. You've seen, for example, how, what would I say? What you're saying, you shared, I was about to say the word. You shared your photos, your intimate photos. Yes. To be politically correct. So you shared your intimate photos with your boyfriend. He has no right to share them out. And a lot of times now what we see is that you're going to find that being used against you. Yeah, so they either post it, and something like that happened yesterday evening on X Space. Yeah. So they either share it
or ask for some money, like a ransom for
a ransom.
If you don't do this, I'm
if you
gonna.
don't do this, I'm going to share this, and all that. And of course, because it's non-consensual sharing of that intimate or revenge pornography. Yeah. Cyber stalking.
Yes.
You have your phone. But they've hacked to your phone, they're stalking you, and things like that. They're getting into your private space and things like that, including a partner should not.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's was pregnant. What are you trying to say? Becky. Becky. So, testimony. So, there's also hate speech.
Yes.
Using that technology space to, hate speech. And that's very common, especially now that we're going to the electoral period and campaign period. It's used a lot. Technologically facilitated gender-based violence is used also a lot to women leaders.
To bring down
or
women
aspiring
leaders.
leaders. That's when someone goes to your X-Files,
Yeah.
Bandika hapo ukiwa kampo vile ulikuwa unafanya. Yeah, doxing, sharing personal information without consent. That's also part of it.
Okay.
Online grooming and sexual exploitation of minors. We've seen that at GVC. There's a quarter we had 4 young girls who met their alleged perpetrators through, that time it was Facebook. It's about 2-3 years back.
Okay.
So they get into the space, they, condition the kids, meet them, and they sexually violated them.
Oh, no.
There are 2 cases also of a group of boys who, when schools were closed in 2 different areas, they would go to, they're called the video dance, kwa mtaa.
Oh, there are those video they play PS.
Yes. So they would be groomed by being shown pornography.
Oh, no.
And then they were sexually violated as a group. So until one then started getting some discharges and things like that, got treated, and then says, ata kuna mwingine, So those things happen.
Yes.
Again, also around the COVID-19 period, we saw a lot of kids being conditioned like that by the helps in the house. So the nanny would do that, condition the kid, and get them into sexual activities. We also have the deepfake pornography and image-based abuse, the AIs. You've seen that a lot. Someone is just, who was put about hugging someone or things like that? I think it was around when we lost someone very famous. Exactly. That also happens a lot.
It's common nowadays.
Yes. And impersonation and fake accounts to use for blackmail. So someone goes there with your photos and says that's you, and they start posting all these funny photos. So this is one of the form of gender-based violence then that is emerging. There's a lot of conversation around it now and a lot of awareness. People are getting to be aware.
Yes.
We're also getting let's say, policies and laws into place. Key also is also to get those safety measures for our children, but even us as parents to be able to understand what's happening. So there's a good side, as I mentioned earlier, to technology, but there's also this other side that's also being abused.
Yes, correct. Alberta, allow me to get into a conversation where we're talking maybe prevention as well as community engagement.
Yes.
Because it's not just about maybe me. Maybe at the end we'll get to how I myself can take care of this. But we live in societies where I could be in my home na nasikia jirani yangu anapigwa, but what do we say? Watu wawili, blanketi moja, leave that alone. Yeah, so what practical actions can communities take beyond, once we're done with 16 days of activism, what other actions can communities come together and do to prevent these cases or even support victims of these cases?
So one is, one is to be aware that violence is happening. So communities need to be aware and accept. A lot of times we hide and think it's a taboo to even discuss gender-based violence. Yeah?
Yes.
Or we think it's wasting time.
We'll mask it with makeup, we'll mask it with, keep quiet.
Moja is not something to report, it's kidogo.
I was actually telling her how this cab driver was telling me, your slap ndio kitu yenye, ni nini. Like,
minimizing violence.
saying that is not a big deal. That was not a big deal. Si kama mimi hata nilifikiria ati amefura uso ama, kumbe ilikuwa tu slap.
Really kabisa. So once we even acknowledge, you see now, you can see already that then if someone is slapped, already there's stigma. You're even thinking, why should I even report? Because now you're normalizing violence. When you're saying your neighbor is being beaten and we're doing nothing, and that's exactly what happens, it's a bystander attitude. So thinking, one, not acknowledging that gender-based violence is there, we need to acknowledge it, accept it, and face it, and realize it's not a waste of time to talk about it. And it's not a women's issue, and things like that. Then two, once we are even aware, what gender-based violence is, we realize then it's each of our responsibility to fight it or to stop it. So si kazi ya mwalimu to teach our children, for example, about gender-based violence or child protection and things like that. That's also our responsibility as parents. And teach, so all of us in that space. Three, to then be sensitized and be sensitive, to survivors of gender-based violence and be there to support them. So not saying, Dio ni mambo ya watu wawili. I mean, it's us to go ring the bell or knock that door and support them. We should not, and that's what I find very unfair and very sad, is that, you see, when we are beaten, we are running to put that makeup and mask, as you say. It becomes your burden as a survivor to figure it out and to go through that pain alone.
How to cover up.
And that perpetrator, ako too. And that's why then it's repeated, and that's why we are thinking, oh, it's just a slap. Next, you'll die, my friend.
It's true.
You'll be killed and life moves on. And maybe that's why we've never stopped gender-based violence. So what communities, again, going to what you're asking, what can do is in those spaces. We're here in the media house, you're in SpiceFM, and congratulations to you ladies. You're having conversations about ladies, you're having conversations around gender-based violence. We're in church. We're at the mosque, those imams, the sheikhs. Can we discuss gender-based violence? Because there's also a lot of religious justification on why we should not leave.
You're married, you have a ring.
You're married,
tulipokea ng'ombe, mwanamke ni nyumba. I don't know, like, take care of your home, kuvumilia.
I went to, it was a joke, but thinking about it, it came out really badly. I went to some function. It was actually a funeral. And this lady comes and a relative from the community where I'm married goes like, hey, hi, our cows. I was like, huh?
Oh, no.
I'm like, oh my God. But you see, it's ouch. I know.
It's really ouch.
So you are, and it may look, yes, it was a joke or not a joke, but it starts with that normalization. I'm making sense.
Our cows,
our cows. So having
to remind you, we actually brought cows.
Like, situlileta ng'ombe ndio tukakupata.
Oh no, like you literally bought me.
And that takes me then to those cultural negative social norms again about communities. And because of that, you start valuing women and girls less.
Correct, yes.
So we have to see women and girls, men and boys as equal partners. And we're not doing women empowerment to kick off the men. No. We just want to be partners so that then it's a better team.
Society.
Yes. Yeah, you can't play football one team moja.
Yeah.
That's not where Man U na Arsenal.
Yes,
Senior ndio
yes.
game ikuwe fun and things like that na to
Yeah.
yes. So communities also then using those social spaces. Ni shule. And we have curriculums around gender-based violence. Can we talk about female genital mutilation? It's the police. Can they be unbiased? And can we have safe spaces where we can go and report? It's a judiciary. How do we fast-track these cases?
Yeah.
And I know the judiciary has 14
and we're going to get
specialized
into
courts,
that,
you know,
like how,
and things
the
like that.
legal
Yes. So
side of
that's what
it.
the committee can do, including then having also functional referral mechanism and a responsive mechanism that works, so that if I report, there's a number I can report to.
Exactly.
At that point when I'm in need, there are people to hold my hand to take me to the hospitals. And the
Yes.
hospitals are providing that medical treatment and the whole continuum of care.
Wow.
Yes.
And when you're talking about that, I'm just thinking, like the cycle of violence. And you say it will start with a slap, and the next thing, you know, it will grow into something bigger. But you never really realize it until it's almost too late or it's already too late. Could you talk about that? That cycle of violence? Where does it start? What should women look out for, or men? Even you watch it from there and you know this one, where it's headed. Next minute, this guy, another time he'll hit me so hard.
Yeah.
Or how do you know? How do you tell? And that is now including the SGBV, like even the sexual, just gender-based violence.
So with the cycle of violence, I'll talk about 4 major cycles. So the first one being tension building. Tension is a build. And in this case, you have, for example, increasing criticisms and insults.
Okay.
Verbal.
So angalia vile unakaa siku hizi, hata vile unavaa nguo na umenona vibaya.
And that is your
Tension
spouse or
inaanza-
partner telling you
tension
that.
inaanza kubuild.
Yes.
Kuna jealousy.
Yes.
Siku hizi wewe ndio kuongea mambo ya wanawake SpiceFM wewe ndio
Sarcasm.
leader wa sarcasm, wewe ndio leader, wewe ndio una guide
kiongozi.
wanawake, ndio kiongozi.
Simba.
Passive aggressive behavior.
Yes.
Survivors. So you start feeling like you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
Unaogopa nikiongea hivi nitakasirisha bwanangu.
So unanyamaza
Nikiongea hivi
tu.
nitakasirisha bibi yangu.
Yeah.
Is it even the right time? You even think, is it the right time to call them at watasema namsumbua? You know, is it so
Or
that
on another call, you cut it haraka because his call is coming in.
ama kufika home ni no disturb you,
Hutaki
explain.
kupigiwa.
So it gives you a lot of hypervigilance, anxiety, self-blame. Ugali nimepika imeiva vizuri ama ndio nitakeleleshwa leo, and things like that. Then it goes to the next one, which is the incidents or the acute violence. So the violence itself now happens. The forms of violence that we discussed earlier. The physical, the sexual, the verbal, the economic, destruction of property, all those things. Threats to, they can even threaten you with the people you love. Nitachapa watoto wako, nitafanya nini, nitacha kulipa school fees, things like that.
Correct.
So it gives you trauma, it gives you shock, it gives you injuries, all those things.
Yeah.
Then there's the next one, where we always get caught, the honeymoon stage.
Okay.
So, ilikuwa, so you get gifts. Mbona umecheka hapo?
Because we spoke about it late earlier. Sorry.
Yes,
We
Okay.
spoke about it, and you're saying how you're treated to. I think
Let
it's
me
one of
read
the
it for
right.
you. It was on the Standard newspaper. It
Yes.
says, abusers might alternate between periods of kindness and attack and or neglect, creating a cycle that keeps the victim emotionally invested, hoping for the return of the positive behavior.
Yes. So
Kaholiday Malindi hivi.
ndio hiyo sasa.
Alafu Monday unapigwa.
Alafu mandi unapigwa. In fact unapigwa ndio upelekwe hiyo holiday. Sasa
Unaenda na
unataka,
bruises.
Alafu akwambia ni shetani.
Yes, we get that.
Shetani alikuwa ameniingilia.
Hata sijui
Forgive
imetoka
me.
wapi. Familia
ama
yetu, we've never
victim
seen
blaming.
anything like this.
Ama unaona wewe siku hizi ndio umechange.
Oh no.
So unakujanga kama umechelewa tu ni piki. So you even now start, thinking, victim blaming. Honeymoon stage. So there's a lot of apologizing. emotional manipulation. You know, see, you're not even behaving the way you used to behave before.
Yeah, you remember those days.
You remember
we
those
used
days
to-
when you were size 6? Yeah. You know, sudden affection and attention. Atakupigia every hour. Umekula, smile. I should see your face. So it gives you confusion, exactly like your name on your face. It confuses you.
It was like, does he really care?
It's
or
the alcohol. Yes.
is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Jalio siku nilikuwa nimelewa sana. And then there's the calm face. So it's calm. Nothing happens. We are peaceful. There's no abuse. There's desire to believe things will change.
Yes.
Especially as women. The man will change.
Yes.
Atabadilika, sikupenda kwake, you know, and things like that.
We keep making excuses for them.
And then the normal routine continues. And then you go to the tension building again. And then it starts again.
Yes.
And the cycle continues and we get trapped in it. So we get trapped in it and for many reasons. So as a survivor, you're thinking, okay, I'm dependent on this guy. Or you start holding on into the honeymoon phase. You know, there's always this good side. I think it's me. And then you spend a lot of time trying to change you and not addressing the issue.
Yes.
And so forth. Yeah.
I think you have explained the stages where Becky's face is still.
Yes. No, you know,
She's
I'm
in shock,
listening this. I'm listening to this and thinking of so many women out there who are experiencing this at the moment
Kabisa,
and
in
might
real
not
life,
even
yes.
know that it's some grooming of sorts.
Yes.
Or if it's that honeymoon stage.
In fact, that
You
leads
know.
to the next question that I'm about to ask Alberta. Alberta, at what point in these cycles are survivors most at risk? Yeah, and at what point can we have interventions safely? Maybe the word safely. Yeah.
Yeah. Because maybe at stage 1, you might not know that, you know, it will lead
It's
to
abuse. It will
to
lead there.
abuse.
Yeah.
So you asked at what...
Yes.
stage
At what
do
point in the
you-
cycle are survivors most at risk, and what can be done to intervene safely
You're actually at risk at all stages.
at all
If you'd
stages?
ask me, because then even if it's just the honeymoon stage with
yeah.
manipulation, you're playing with my mind. You're not being real. You're actually keeping me calm for the next cycle, which might even be worse. Remember when we said it starts with a slap?
Yeah.
Because it starts, umbwa wewe, watoto wajinga kama mama yao, you know? And then the next thing, then the next, and then you're thinking, anakuanga hivo. Ni kuongea tu. It's not physical. Tukai.
Okay.
You know, and things like that. So for me, it's all of them that you're at risk. What can be done, let's start with survivors, is realizing that it's not your fault. It's not easy, but with support, you know, therapy and things like that, you're able to go and understand and know, okay, it's not my fault. Because a lot of time we blame ourselves
Yes,
and we spend a lot of heart and years thinking, years getting hurt, thinking that at a change or I need to change for him to be like this and things like that. We also need to, as you mentioned then, both of you earlier, is recognizing those warning signs, recognizing that this is just a game.
Yes.
Again, not easy, but starts with getting a lot of information and going back to what you're talking about, community engagement, getting to those spaces and getting into deeper conversations. And a lot of times I even learn from survivors' experiences or other women experiences when they're sharing in safe spaces. So then you're able to realize, okay, then that's a pattern. Sometimes when you're in it, you don't even realize. And I usually say, when I share about my experiences, it's not that because I made it right, I didn't make mistakes. It's actually because of those mistakes. I don't want the younger girls to make the same mistakes, you know? And that's why then we keep sharing. Also, again, is to know for survivors that there are safe exit plans. So what are these things I can do? Do we have family, for example? Do I have that one friend I can call and I'm able to get that safe space and these numbers that I can call or where I can go and get therapy or where I can go? So let's not wait, which is the norm in this country, for when umekatwa mikono, your arms are cut, because those are the realities,
Yes.
Or when you're beaten, paka your eyes, I don't know how.
Popped up.
Yes, and a lot of times when you're having sessions with the survivors, they'll tell you, si mara ya kwanza. And you're looking at them, they're really, really hurt. And there are a number of reasons why survivors stay on. Then for professionals and advocates, we are advocates ourselves to advocate against gender-based violence. A design targeted interventions then for each of the stages that we've talked about. Improving on risk assessment tools, for example. How do we have predictive models? And someone was asking me, how do you have a predictive model for femicide to reduce femicide cases? You know, so of course calls for deeper expertise
And studying patterns.
and study patterns, exactly. Supporting long-term living and healing. That's also some of the barriers that we have, for example. So, ndio nimechapwa, nimeenda hospitali, then after that, I have nowhere to go. So you opt to go back. So that then, because you're economically dependent on that person, you don't have any other home, somehow investment and everything was under his name and all that. You don't even have the bandwidth to fight for anything. So do we have safe shelters? So at GVC, we have temple shelters, we have safe shelters, about 16 of them we work with. And then even beyond those shelters, maybe you don't have skills. Are there opportunities to skill up? You know, are there opportunities for funds, for example, economic empowerment funds? And forget even about that time, even before, as we're raising our girls and boys, are we raising the girls to have that esteem? To be able to know, I don't have this void and I don't need to seek validation from this man. Because then that's the emotional manipulation we're talking about later. You know, nikitoka kwangu, what you're saying earlier, how does a woman leave her home? How does it, you know, society is discriminating and things like that. Even as a man, how do you have positive masculinity? You know, and things like that.
Most people, men might sometimes blame it on how they were also brought up. Maybe they were also brought up in abusive homes.
Yes.
So, and
It's
even
an
for
unending
women,
cycle.
sometimes the women who are being abused, so they feel like it's normal
Yes.
because they also saw their mothers being battered.
Yes.
Or even the men, like they saw their fathers beating up their mothers. So they feel like it's a normal thing in marriage.
I totally agree.
Yeah, like even such traumas. How do you
the modeling,
address
the modeling of it.
The modeling of
yes. So
of the
like
character.
girls, unasema that's what I saw my mom doing. The boy, I don't know even how better women are treated. That's what I saw my father doing to my mom, and they lived harmoniously. You can remember our parents would never even know when there are issues,
Yeah.
so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they would just come and they'll do their duties and everything else. And one of the gaps now that you mentioned that is, are there men who are mentoring men?
That's the thing.
Even us as women, are we there for our daughters and socializing our daughters and guiding them? We are too busy chasing the bag. Yeah, we show up at what time at home. Tumeachia house help, values zake, wanaraise watoto, tumeachia shule. Or we are just keen on academic performance, but we are not keen on these things. Even how we socialize. The toys we buy for girls vis-a-vis the toys we buy for boys. Do we limit our girls into STEM and all that? Because we would buy for them cars to dismantle and put together and things like that. There's something you're saying, Rebecca, earlier, and I wanted to speak to it, but now it's evaporated. Yeah, if it comes back.
Sorry. It's
okay.
okay. Yeah, it's okay. You know, you said that, and I think it's something that I started becoming very deliberate about. I have a 7-year-old daughter. And sometimes she'll just come and tell me, so-and-so is being a bully. Or so-and-so is not kind. So back in, like a few times, I used to dismiss her and just tell her, no, you just be kind, show kindness. And then I realized, actually, when she's saying that, I need to be very keen because she's so good at picking energies, or even that's how I'd even tell like a good nanny and a bad nanny, because she'll just come and tell me, I don't like how she talks to me. And the moment she says that, observe.
Yes.
Because there must be something that is not. So sometimes we shut our children, yet they are actually trying to tell you something. They're trying to communicate. And it's also teaching, like you're saying, if we're able to teach even our children how to know when someone is being unkind or when someone is being a bully, it's very important that we start teaching them from a very young age and to actually pick it and action it.
Yes.
Yes, so important, because
from an early age.
Early age. And talk about gender-based violence, safe touches and unsafe touches from that early age. And talking about children and violence. When that 40% of the cases that come to GVRC are actually children who've been abused.
40%.
40%.
That's a huge number.
And some of them, and of course 68% are actually perpetrators known to the survivor.
Okay.
So for children who say, a child will not leave where they live so far to come, for example, to standard media. So for them, it's the people around them.
Around them,
School,
yes.
home, playground, things like that, mostly. Now, some of these kids, how the parents have known they've been violated, it's what you're saying. And it's really nice when you're talking about picking, and creating those spaces where children are able to share. Unlike us, when we're growing up, we didn't talk about sex with our parents
Absolutely
or
not.
menstrual health or things like that. So being very deliberate. I've met parents who said, I taught my kids about safe spaces. So we usually say the areas that cover your swimming costume area. And someone tell you, I was just there, Nini, doing my thing. And then I ask the child, did someone touch you today? True stories, true experiences. And the child said, yes, uncle touched me, sijui how. Ati where? Then you realize, amekwanga sexually abused. And it's repeated.
Yes.
Some of these children, it's repeated for many things. Because then they're either threatened, if you do this, I will kill. I'll kill your mom, I'll kill your dad.
This is someone who's like 5 years old. So when you're telling her, I'll kill your mom,
That's
like,
the most important person in their life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And at times, so we have child therapy sessions at GVRC, and they use art and play therapy, so they'll draw. So they'll draw for you even that kisu or that panga, or they're given gifts. So when you're talking about picking these things, it can also be behavioral. The child has started regressing in school performance. What do we do? Oh, what are you doing? Tuition teacher, But are we taking time to understand exactly what you're saying? Yeah, regressive behavior. The child starts to swing in bed, being in bed. They had stopped, and things like that. Or they're coming home with unexplained gifts. So those are some of the things. Then, as you're saying earlier, that we get into those spaces, we get involved in our children activities, tying up also with what we were talking about earlier, technologically facilitated GBV. What are they watching?
Yes.
Have you taken time to watch some of these cartoons and what they're showing?
And it's how parents have also exposed their children to gadgets, to these spaces. Children are on TikTok, like very young children.
Exactly.
I feel so sad for some reason, like when I see that, because I think it's something that we were very deliberate about. Like, TV, if it's TV, we know what they're watching. Up to, like, screen time is limited, because then it opens up this whole room for, for them to watch anything they want. You're allowing your child to scroll and open YouTube the way they want. And they'll definitely just find something that is not appropriate.
True.
Yeah. And you start exposing them at a very young age.
I totally agree. There was a meme that we kept laughing about. Was it this week or last week? And we're laughing how when we're growing up, your mom would come and beat you first, or your father, because you're watching TV. And at some point you'll be told, TV imechoka, tokeni mkacheza, nitanunua yenyu baadaye.
And then we had that one.
Aishajua miaka yako kusema hivyo.
With a padlock like this.
But in retrospect, when you look back, we had a lot of outdoor activities. We had good socialization.
Exactly.
Would make a mistake out there and the neighbor would beat us up and things like that. And
So you're talking of a neighbor beating you up. I remember it was just after high school for me. And I remember my parents and her friends had gone somewhere in Meru. So they were coming back. My mom was not in that vehicle, but it was myself, my sister, and a friend of my sister's we were walking. Unfortunately, I had exchanged shoes with this boy.
I knew it was a boy. You're still with the boys like you've made the biggest mistake in the world.
With a boy, we had exchanged shoes. Let me tell you, a woman friend in that vehicle, a friend of my mother's, beat me. Yes, she beat me, she pinched me, and told my mother that I saw this and it was wrong. And nikachapwa tena. I'm just saying.
Because I will tell you that you didn't say it at home because utachapwa tena.
Utachapwa tena. Community.
Community raised the child. That was the point.
Yeah.
The community raised the child. Lunchtime itafika utakuwa kwa kina sijui nani utakula huko. Utarudi. So that community, and it's what you're saying earlier about bystander attitude. Jirani anachapwa oni mambo yao. So now there's not that collective community. And those are some of the amazing cultural kitambo social practices and norms that we had. So now it's kila mtu on their own. And then what does it do? It also affects our mental health. So we are here starting from you're beaten, hide my makeup, come to SpiceFM. You're going through life alone. Am I making sense? You're just solo. So yes, we're here, we're laughing, but it's just a solo journey that is so hard. Kitambo would even have, I believe, aunties talking to you about marriages before.
Yes.
Nini. Saizi wewe figure out peke yako na huko. You know? Yeah.
Okay. I don't know whether Joyline wants us to take a short break and then, okay. She says that we can continue. So I'll ask you something in regards to barriers and support.
Okay.
Is it psychological or is it financial or social barriers that keep survivors trapped in these cycles?
Okay. So it's all.
Or all. Yeah.
Yes, psychological, financial, and social. All.
Yeah, so I'll talk about the barriers and the support as you ask. So some of the barriers are actually personal and psychological. So let me lump them together. So fear of retaliation. And I'll give an example. You don't know her. So this week at some point, some friends of my former high school mate and campus mate call me and they tell me, oh, so-and-so. So I'm like, hey, who is it? And so-and-so is actually admitted. Amechapwa na bwanake and they're to get some chumas hapo kwa ankle.
Okay.
So conversation continues and I'm like, okay. So we continue the conversation. I'm like, okay, are they stable where they are? What? I'm like, fine. If they need specialized care, let me know. We can bring them over to GVRC. So we continue. I'm like, are the children safe? Yes. Have you reported to the police? No, we're waiting for the family.
Wow.
And it's not the first time. But we don't blame her.
Yeah.
Don't blame the survivor.
Okay.
So, yeah, but yes, there's I'm just trying to show you the reality of what happened. So we're waiting for the family to report. Na kini si mara ya kwanza.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and things like that. And the man is still coming home. So the lady is at hospital, kids are home. The man, amekuwa tu akikuja nyumbani, bado anakuja nyumbani. So does that tell you? That fear. Ameingiza uoga na ogopa, oh my God, what will happen? So you're thinking it's not a personal issue, it's a family issue. So waiting for this wazes from Shags to come and make that decision.
With the decision whether it should be reported to the police.
You'll just sit, have a conversation and so memkosea huyu aje. So at that point, mama ndio, it will change
and
anyway.
Resolve it.
Shame and blame and guilt. Yeah, so again, the victim blaming we are talking about.
Yes.
Low self-esteem, hopelessness. Sasa nikitoka, what will happen? What will we do? Trauma bonding. I think you spoke about trauma bonding earlier.
Yes.
Then some of them are social and cultural barriers, yeah? She provoked it. Oh, so she was raped at midnight. Alikuwa anafanya nini kwa hiyo club?
Alikuwa nje.
Alikuwa amevaa miniskirt. Alikuwa nje. Alikuwa, you know, okay. So alirepiwa na boyfriend yake. Yes, ndio alienda kwa hiyo nyumba hiyo boyfriend.
Unaonanga hata vile anavaanga.
Unaona vile anavaanga? Vitu kama hizo.
Meet mtu like a stranger online. And they agreed to meet. Why? Why would you agree? Why would you meet her?
Alikuwa anajitakia.
Yeah, stranger.
Pressure to keep family matters private. Maybe that's why they're waiting for the family. Tuskaribu jina ya familia. And that's why sometimes a lot of...
The family doesn't want to report it.
Yes, and that's why maybe a lot of times it's reported, you'd go and report, I fell down the steps or I did something, you'd come out clean on what happened to you.
Correct.
Just get the medical treatment and hush. Or go to your private doctor if you can afford and all that. Yeah, forced mediation and reconciliation, but that same family that you're waiting for happens a lot of time.
You know, it almost reminds me of a time when the former DPP was in the northeastern region, Nurdin Haji, and he spoke about masla.
Yes,
you know, masla in the Islamic community. And I was saying, no, we won't be handling, you know, some of these cases the masla way. We need to prosecute them. We need to prosecute GBV. I think it was around sexual and gender-based violence, and saying like we need to report these cases to the police, and society needs to know that, you know, some of these cases doesn't need masla. Like we need to prosecute, and I mean that was really profound for him.
So they also again religious justifications, and that's an example of that maslaha. That's a mwanamke ndio weka nyumba pamoja, and a woman does not. There's something like you don't go up to the roof of the house and shout about your home problems. There's something like that.
You hush.
You hush. You're the neck. Ni ukae usikize ujue. The other one, why also barriers for men especially, is men can't be victims. Men report, we laugh at them. From social media to whatever service points they've gone to and things like that.
The police station.
Yes, so men don't cry. Unapigwa aje. So So a lot of men then are also abused and they don't talk about it,
True.
including emotional and psychological abuse. How do you even talk about violence and things like that? Economic barriers. You're dependent on this man.
True. Ooh.
You're dependent on this woman, on the abuser. Immediately, sasa sawa, nimeenda hospitali, nimereport, nitaenda wapi?
After
Shelter,
that,
food, clothing. Unasema tu wacha ninyenyekee nirudi. Inability to even follow through with the process. You know, the legal process or medical, yes, a lot of times you can get it at no cost, but the transport, the legal process, the kwenda, you know, it takes, and again, look at it from the loss of opportunities and the time. Hautaenda kazini. Kama ni mama mboga utafungua kibanda. You get, so there are things then, as a way you look at it and look at, these are some of the barriers, so wacha nikai. Institutional and legal barriers, the enforcement, the evidence collection and case reporting and such things, lack of privacy, or maybe there are survivor spaces that are not safe. So kitambo, now there are specialized GBV courts, but kitambo someone would say, so you go to the court, kila mtu ameja, and then you have to repeat the sexual violence.
What happened to you?
Na ule wa kuku, na ule wa nini. Same for police, though now they are gender desks. The same reporting desk, ati nilichapatiaje, you know, and things like that. So those are some of the things then. And protective orders. So fine, you've gotten the medical treatment, you've reported. What protective orders are there? And that ties up with the fear of retaliation.
Okay.
Disability barriers also. Are they friendly? The services, is the access to, for example, those hospitals, the distance and things like that. Those are some of the things then that would be barriers. The support that's available, there's the counseling, for example, then the family therapies and all that. There's the legal support, there's legal aid provided by us, but also by a lot of other organizations. There's economic empowerment, now there's vocational training, there's job placement, the financial literacy programs, so the economic empowerment programs. In terms of community, there's the awareness, where do you get help, there's trainings and all that. Even those gatekeepers or cultural leaders you're talking about, there's specific programs. For example, even for Morans. And again, to mention, during the launch of the 16 Days of Activism at Suswa in Narok, the elders are going, the Ma community is going to declare elimination of female genital mutilation and child marriages.
Wonderful.
Yes. So the idea, again, when you're talking about what do communities do, is to look at the different segments differently.
Yes.
And what is their role and what power do they have. Because we can come here and sing, but if culturally that's what it means to them and they don't understand, then that will not stop. And then again, the medical treatment and the psychosocial support.
Okay. I think there was something that Becky was almost bringing out, and then I think she posted, and it was a question of legal processes and case resolutions.
Yes.
We're just curious to find out how many GBV cases has GVRC, helped to take through the justice system for the year 2024 to 2025, maybe.
Okay.
Or up to this time of the year.
Or in your 20-something years of existence.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might not have the 20-something years of existence. No, I can. It's possible to get it. It's just that I don't have it here. But in the 2024 April to March 2025, about 800 cases.
Okay.
Wow.
Those are
800 cases means, so what GVRC does is first we create awareness and to the public, not to survivors, to the public. Because remember, you can either be the survivor or you can be the one to support. Please seek medical attention within 72 hours at most, or immediately. Or don't shower, go straight to a health facility, because that's part of the justice system. So that then you're able to get the right treatment, but also preserve the evidence.
Yes.
Then in that chain of custody, we have a lot of capacity enhancement for different service providers. From the clinicians, how do you collect that evidence? How do you analyze, the lab tests and everything else? The police come and collect it from us.
Okay.
How they store it. We also have trainings for them. How it's also interpreted to the court. We also have trainings for judiciary and things like that. We also enhance the referral mechanism. We have legal aid for the survivors. All that contributes, including documentation tools. We have a post-rape care form that's admissible in court. That's a national document that is it's a national document from a document GVRC used to work on, used to have. So now you're able to document, but it also guides you on the treatment for the survivor.
Okay.
So all those things and the right documentation, that then builds the case. That's why it's important for the access to justice. And then at GVRC, we have a doctor who goes to court, minimum of about 5 cases in one day, and offers that medical expert testimony in court.
Yeah.
And then there's the legal aid where you also prepare the survivor and a lot of psychosocial support so that then they're also safe and they're also able to provide that. So that also then builds up to, and then we have the courts again, the trainings I spoke about, and the specialized courts.
Yeah.
So there has been, and now the ODPP, the Office of Director of Public Prosecution, has a department for sexual gender-based violence. So they have specialized prosecutors
Yeah.
to be able to push for the courts. So then there's been a lot of convictions on the scene.
Around.
I remember some time
really
back
nice.
there was a conversation where a certain legislator was suggesting that inside the police station there's a kawaida OB desk. I think there was a request to have a separate
Yeah, they're
desk,
gender desks
right?
now.
Yes.
They're there.
Yeah.
So there are gender desks so one, there's the desk, and then there's building the capacities of the police so that then they're not biased,
Yeah.
but they're also you're able to report in the conducive environment and documentation and everything. So yes, there are gender desks, and in some of those police stations, they've gone ahead to have what you call child protection units.
Oh,
So it's amazing. So they have all this department that, yes, it's a child protection unit, but you're able to report on gender-based violence. So they have policemen and women who now are experts in that particular area.
Yeah.
They're able to provide that support. And child protection units, actually, it's a temporary shelter. So
Okay.
they even have beds. You can report and you don't have anywhere to go. So they keep you safe there. They go to court. They're able to follow up. There's one at Kilimani police station.
Okay.
So they're able even to call us and follow up or even show up and bring survivors. And I must mention 2/3 of the survivors the last 3 years referred to GVRC, actually referrals from the police.
Wow.
Yes, but
That's
yeah.
really
So
impressive,
there
yeah.
is it's
There
very
is
impressive. There
progress.
is lots of
There-
progress.
there's
And
lot
they have
of
standard
progress.
operating procedures now on how to support survivors of gender-based violence.
Yeah.
But of course, then what we're also then requesting that they have is a police a gender-based unit,
Yeah.
gender-based violence unit, so that then they're also able to put resources and they're able to, the same way you have. What is it called? The one for livestock, which has these arms that are really specialized on. So then we have that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So right from rescues to everything else, so that then we have the resources.
The
in
resources that
department.
are required, and now with the emerging trends, the digital violence,
Yes.
then we even need like more enhancement on that.
Yes.
As we wind up, tell us about the gaps that you feel this space has. What do you think the gaps are from a policy level? Do we have laws that are strict enough to end GBV? Do we have policies that have been put in place? Are the systems working? And I love that you're talking about what, like, most of your referrals actually come from the police, which is very, very commendable.
Yes.
Over the years, because there were cases, back then people would report and nothing much would happen. But now the issue is being taken more seriously. But what are the gaps, and how do you think we can fill them? Yes, and especially the government. Now I want you to talk to the government about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are gaps in terms of service delivery and I mean in terms of gender-based violence management in Kenya.
Yeah.
I'll start with the laws and policies. The laws and policies are there. I mean, they're amazing. They're there. What needs just to be done is the implementation. Usual story. The second gap has been resources, allocation of resources for gender-based violence. That has been a gap.
Yeah.
Resources from shelters and resources from in terms of the whole gender-based violence management. The allocation, for example, to the relevant departments, though gender-based violence cuts across. You find gender-based violence issues, of course, for example, in fisheries, but the guiding steering wheel, of course, will be the State Department of Gender and Affirmative Action. So having resources allocated, and of course it starts from people realizing their priorities and the needs and appreciating that gender-based violence is there and it's escalating every other day.
Yes.
Taking different forms of the same, so to speak. So gaps in prevention would be, how then do we inculcate gender-based violence awareness and sensitization into every space. If it's in those schools curriculums, if it's in trainings, for example, even for the police chief, hapo. If it's mental health wellness issues, we are keen on that. If it's teachers, because then teachers also play a very key role in terms of prevention, but also responding to gender-based violence, or even identifying children who are being abused. How is it in that curriculum? If it's nurses, if it's doctors, and GVRC has a 45-hour GBV module into the National Nursing Curriculum degree. If it's community health, yes. If it's community health promoters, they're everywhere. They have a stipend, they're within the existing government system. They also have a GBV module that GVRC at a national level has spearheaded. So how do we then make sure? Because then they're going there with primary prevention, but they're able to identify this child in this house is being neglected. This woman is being beaten. This man is an elderly man who's being violated. How do you provide that support? And then in terms of response, is looking at what are GBV protection centers. And this includes the GVRCs, this includes the GBVRCs. The GBVRCs are the ones in the county government hospitals. The shelters, 90% of the shelters in this country are privately owned. They should be the other way around. That's the government.
It would only make sense.
Exactly. With standardized national SOPs. It's in the works, of course, with government, so that then there's standardization of services and support. And there are clear linkages between the different service points. So the government should put resources. I know they're working towards 3 shelters, I think Kwale, Taita, and I think Busia. But they should be in every county. State-run shelters. Exactly. For me, if you'd ask me, linking also the different opportunities that are in government. If it's the women economic empowerment, there's an aspect of women economic empowerment that even now has a digital platform. How does it support survivors, for example? Under the national government and affirmative action, they're building shelters. Some of them are just there, not operationalized, but they are built. How then that
like
the county
government?
So how does the county government make sure that they're operational?
So SOPs are missing, as you're saying, honestly.
Yes. So that resources directing to the right place, the expertise is, I think, available. I know it's available, but just putting that resources and making it a national disaster. Was it yesterday I was saying SA has put it as a national disaster? They're running around with the...
we were actually reading very alarming statistics here.
Okay.
That 95%, where is that? Let's see that. What shocked me was that each day at least 15 women are murdered and 117 report rape each day in South Africa. Though experts believe 95% of rape cases remain unreported. So can you imagine the 15 women and 17 rape cases that are reported on a daily basis are just like 5% of what the country is going through.
Imagine.
So 51% of women, like over half of all women in South Africa, report experiencing GBV.
So
that's an alarming.
Very alarming. But even as we are alarming, and even if it was one person, it should stop the country.
Yes, it should
address it. And
before
address
we get to
gender-based
such
violence.
numbers.
Yeah, and there's a clear link also between mental health and the intersectionality is also another area we need to look at. The links between GBV and all these other spaces. So I'll give you an example of mental health. By November this year, just Nyeri County, I think had 107 suicide cases. Does anyone take time to understand the cause of the suicide and how to prevent it and the link to mental wellness? And 83 of them were men. Interesting. See?
We talked about men, by the way.
We did. We did kidogo. We did
Violence against men.
So that link, and not seeing things in isolation, that makes sense. And we really need to be keen.
Being men,
That's
quite high.
That's really high. Because it might be economical reason. There's something you've touched on that maybe we can finish really fast on the elderly.
Yes.
We never think that the elderly go through violence, and you've touched on it a bit. You want to touch on it as we finish?
I'll speak to that. So I'll talk about the elderly and how they are violated. And a lot of times, so the elderly as victims of gender-based violence, and they undergo physical abuse, even by their family members or their caretakers. I don't know if you noticed that. Shamba boy ameua, there's been a lot of that.
Grandson,
and things like that. There's also psychological and emotional abuse. They're really insulted, financial, economic abuse. So they're left in the villages, not supported financially. There's neglect, denial of food, medication, and things like that. And a lot of them also sexually violated. At GVC, the oldest sexual violence case was a 105-year-old woman. And the oldest man was 78 years old.
Oh, no.
Witchcraft related. Simply because I'm a Zeka, and you know the counties, you need to agile mob justice because they assume you're a witch or you're a wizard because of that.
They lynch you.
Yeah, and the risk factor is because now they're dependent on their caregivers and things like that.
Yeah.
So the barriers to reporting, they fear again, of course, the same one, retaliation.
Yeah.
Again, for them, it's harder because there's low morbidity. They can't move. And then they're also physically dependent
Correct.
on someone else.
Correct.
And then there are a lot of impacts on the same. When you're talking about men, I think we touched on men. Yes. So those are some of the things for the elderly. And what I had also, and I was listening to, I don't know who was listening to, I think it was a conversation I was having actually from here earlier this week on an Uber with an older man. He had just retired. And we're talking about for us as Africans, maybe as Kenyans, you think when akiwa mzee, you go to the villages.
Yes.
But you're forgetting the socialization, your friends.
And then they're used to people, like
They're used
to being around people.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden you're cutting them off completely.
Unlike other countries where they'll continue using their brains, lack for a better word, they'll continue working, they'll continue. So that's the flip side of us. We think it's the end, but there's so much usefulness that can be done so that then they can also be excited. And I think there's a country, I can't remember which one, where they're offering free university short courses to the elderly. At no cost. So you just go for fun.
Giving them like a lease of life, a lease of life. Like,
why don't
that's
you?
so
Beautiful. So they're waking up to
beautiful.
dress up as opposed to just
I
sitting
love
there and
that.
basking and going for classes. So there are different, would I say, activities that we need to be more keen on that would also prevent gender-based violence and neglect to our elderly.
Okay. Joyline is not very happy with our time. But I would like maybe, Alberta, as you close, could you please maybe give your closing remarks in regards to GVRC as well as the 16 days of activism? Could you marry that as you close?
As together.
Yes, please.
So, and you'll also give us the toll number.
The total number.
Yes.
Okay. Exactly.